So you want to join the United States Army? I get it. They got some sweet gear and you wonder what kind of gear do I get to keep when I get out? What's up, my friends? U.S. Army veteran Christopher Chaos, and there is some stuff you get to keep when you join the Army. Army gives you a lot of stuff. Some of that stuff you got to return, some of the stuff you get to keep, and we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what you actually get to hold on to, and not really necessarily what you have to turn in, because there's a lot of stuff you have to turn in, but also probably the factor of like, what if there's something I want to keep that I have to turn in and I just keep it? So that's what we're talking about. So what kind of cool stuff you get to keep? Well, let's discuss, shall we? First one, probably an obvious one, but maybe some people didn't really know this, but of course you get to keep the uniforms. You're gonna get issued like 4 uniforms when you go through basic training. You have to, probably buy some new ones throughout your Army career, because those ones will probably start to fade on you, get torn or whatever. Sometimes you'll get issued some, just sometimes through your supply. They're like, hey, here's some free uniforms, and that's a pretty cool hookup sometimes when you do get lucky and that happens. You got the boots and everything too. Those are also ones that, you're gonna get issued like 2 pairs of boots at basic training, and then somewhere in your Army career, you'll probably have to buy some more, and then occasionally you'll get some free ones just issued to you. For the most part, things that usually have like direct contact with your skin like that, the uniforms, you don't have to turn that stuff in. So that also includes like the physical fitness uniform, that dress uniform, all that stuff. I mean, sometimes there's uniforms that you do have to turn in, but the majority of your uniforms, you'll get to keep that stuff. Plus, they're not gonna want that stuff back. It's gonna be faded, it's gonna be worn. They're not gonna want that stuff back in the first place. The only time I've had it with a uniform where I had to return it was when I was deployed to Iraq the second time. There was this really cool pair of uniform that I had gotten where they were like really comfortable. They were supposed to be like really flame retardant compared to like what the normal ones are. You didn't have to blouse them, so you got to leave them untucked, and they had like some cool pockets and everything like that. I forget what they were specifically for, but they were awesome, and I had to return those ones though. Other things that you'll get issued to you is like gloves, right? A lot of times you have like the winter gloves, but you also have like these Nomex gloves and these fire retardant gloves that you'll a lot of times wear in the field or in a deployment, and you get to keep those. I've got several pairs of gloves just laying around that I like keeping in my car, so when it's winter time and I need to clean off my windshield, I got a nice pair of warm gloves that I can throw on real quick that, are just easy gloves that I can just leave in my car that I don't really care too much about. There's a bunch of other ones. Some of them are like really worn out and everything. Occasionally you might get the really cool ones with like the knuckles on them and stuff like that. For the most part, I usually had to buy my own for those cool ones, but I think there was one time, I think it was during my second deployment, where we got issued some and it was pretty cool. Now before we move on to some of the other things, this video is sponsored by the Ridge Wallet. If you're not familiar with the Ridge Wallet, well, it's possible you're carrying around one of those old school foldable wallets and you need to get with the times, my friend. Get yourself a Ridge Wallet. It holds up to 12 cards and also is RFID blocking technology. And this week they're actually celebrating their 8th anniversary, as they started off as a father-son Kickstarter type of campaign, and over the years have developed to have a bunch of options for different colors and designs to pick from. So to help celebrate for their 8th anniversary, if you visit their website between the 14th and the 23rd of March, you can take advantage of their amazing anniversary sale and get 15% off. I'm actually rocking the 18 karat gold premium wallet. It's amazing, but they have a ton of designs. They have carbon fiber, they got some black ones, they got gunmetal, all sorts of designs. Check out the website to see what one maybe fits you best. So head on over to ridge.com/chaosarmy, and there should be a banner at the top that'll give you the promo code for the 8th anniversary. If you miss that time frame, then just use the promo code chaosarmy to at least get 10% off. Moving on now, let's talk about some more things that you get to keep while you're in the Army. You'll also get like some eye pro, right? Some eye protection, some special safety kind of goggles type of thing, or glasses. And those you can keep. I mean, sometimes they're really crappy ones that are just some regular old, just plastic ones that are supposed to shield your eyes when you're out on the range, when you're out on deployment. So that way little pieces of debris, don't get in your eye and blind you. Obviously not bulletproof or anything crazy like that, or prevent against shrapnel from an explosion, but little things here and there, like a round flying off, from the brass coming out of, ejecting out of your M4 or whatever. Other things, just to kind of shield your eyes a little bit. Plus they work as sunglasses too. They have different ones with like either polarized ones or just tinted ones or just clear ones. It just kind of depends. I've had it before where I've gotten just some really crappy ones. There was a time, I think in my first deployment, we got issued some Oakley ones. So those ones are pretty nice. And then we also got some Wiley X ones, which those ones are still like really good brand type of ones. And those ones were still really nice as well. Then of course, you can always buy your own. So as long as they're within the standards, you can always buy your own eye pro. But there's a lot of times where you'll get issued some pretty cool ones. Sometimes you might get the hookup and get like some cool multi-tools or a knife or whatever. For the most part, if you have to sign for it, that means they want it back. But I've had it quite often where I've been, issued to me or given to me a multi-tool or a cool knife, and they didn't have me sign for it. So that means they're not really keeping track of who got one and who didn't get one, and they don't want it back. There is also times I remember like a multi-tool where it was kind of assigned to you and then you had to like sign for it and then they wanted it back and you returned it when you left the unit or whatever the case was, and if you lost it, you had to pay for it. But most often I think I remember, we just basically were given those things. I used to have a really badass knife too, and I wish I could remember what the hell happened to it, but that one was given to me, and I think that thing was like probably like $100 knife, a $50 knife. I don't remember. It was a really nice knife. It was like a diver's knife, and I used to have it attached to my vest when I was deployed to Iraq the second time, but I don't know. I think it's long gone, I guess. Sometimes you get to keep like the phased out gear, right? If there's something that got phased out and they've replaced it with a better version or whatever, for some items anyways, you might get to keep some things that even you're issued. A lot of the items that some people are kind of probably thinking about, right? Like the helmet and the vest and everything like that. When you first show up at your first duty station, they have what's called CIF, the Central Issuing Facility, and that's where you get issued all that stuff, and you have to sign for it. They have a whole printout, they have a copy of it digitally and probably physically too, whatever, to keep accountability of what they gave out and who has what. So this whole hand receipt, shows everything that you are signed for, you are accountable for, and everything. And sometimes, you get issued some stuff that throughout your years in the Army, may get phased out with a better version of it. And depending on what it is, it may end up being a thing where they just take it off that hand receipt and they're like, yeah, we don't want this back. You can just hang on to it. That's not gonna happen like if they come up with like a better version of the helmet or the vest or anything like that. You're probably not gonna get to keep that kind of stuff. It's not very likely. I mean, maybe there could be some situations for that where they get lost accountability of it inside the records, but normally that's not the type of things you get to keep. The things like I remember that I got to keep, like I had an old version of the mop suit or the chemical suit that they didn't really care, they didn't want it back, so that just kind of went away and went off my hand receipt. I think I still have that somewhere, so I might have gotten rid of it, I don't remember. A few pouches here and there that weren't on my hand receipt anymore because they old ones that had been replaced. I've heard of some people getting to keep some of the jackets because they don't want them back because they're the older style ones or whatever. There's a lot of stories of people that had certain types of gear, they got phased out and they just fell off their hand receipt, they just didn't want it back, whatever, and they got to keep that kind of stuff. So no, you're not going to keep like the helmet, you're not going to get to keep the vest, and feel like I probably should mention it, you're not going to get to keep a weapon. Now, I've had it before where people say, well, what if I want to keep the vest? What if I just don't turn it in and they just charge me for it? Here's kind of the thing with that. A lot of times you'll find that like the vest or certain other pieces of equipment are valued much higher than they're probably really worth. So that vest may cost you like $300-400. I don't know, I'm just off the top of my head. I don't know if that's an exact number. Someone's gonna probably correct me on it. It's only worth $100-something. I don't know off the top of my head, but a lot of times you'll see this gear is like valued on your hand receipt at a higher amount than you feel like it's worth. So for example, the vest, like I said, if it's worth like $300, $200-something, you can probably get a pretty darn good civilian version from like 511 or some other company or whatever for less than that, and it would still work fine if you really wanted to keep a vest. Same goes for a lot of the equipment, right? The rucksack, I don't know why you'd want to keep the helmet, but the helmet, you could probably get a civilian version. These aren't things that are only limited to the military. They have civilian versions of these things. You can get ones that are almost just like the Army ones, if not made by the same company too, but you can probably get them from cheaper than if you just held on to them and, just paid the Army for them. Certain things, it's not gonna work that way. If you're like, hey, I'm just gonna hang on to Man 4 and I guess they'll just charge me for it, or hang on to some night vision goggles and I guess they'll just charge me for it and I got some sweet new night vision goggles. No, those are what are considered sensitive items. So those, if you just held on to those and said, I don't know what happened to them, I guess I lost them, I guess you're gonna have to charge me for them. No, they're gonna lock down the base, they're gonna do all sorts of crazy stuff. I've heard stories of people that legitimately like lost like some MBGs or a weapon, and they didn't get to go home for several days until they found that sucker. So no, that's not gonna be a thing where you can hang on to it. Also, just in case, people watching this and maybe they have like a fiance that's deployed somewheres that can't leave because they lost the weapon and now they have to pay for it. No, that's not really how that works. I'm not gonna dive into that, but I've heard that kind of scam going around where like someone emails me and they're like, I got this fiance, he's deployed over here. Well, he needs this money to pay for the weapon that he lost or damaged. It's not gonna really work that way. Yeah, they might make you pay for it, but not gonna hold you ransom and like not let you leave that deployment. But also that's a pretty serious thing. If you lose a weapon, some MBGs, something that's considered a sensitive item, it's a pretty serious thing. You can't just hang on to that stuff and just be like, oh, I guess they'll just charge me for it and I can keep it. For any of my veteran viewers out there, I'd love to hear maybe in the comment section down below, what are some things that maybe you got issued to you that you didn't have to return? Maybe because CIF didn't want it back, maybe you got issued it by your supply sergeant. I'd love to hear, what are some cool things that you got to hang on to that you like? For me, like I got some knives. Those are pretty cool. I think I still have some boots. Actually, I do have like at least 1 or 2 pairs of boots that are brand new that I've never even used, but nothing too crazy. Some little pouches here and there, but probably the knives and the boots, I guess, are the best thing that I have that I got to hang on to. Now, you might be also curious as to what types of things do you get issued to you when you first come to the United States Army. And if you want to know about that, well, I got an older video that I did right here, conveniently located for you to check it out, see what kind of things you get issued to you when you arrive at your first unit. If you have not seen my latest video upload, check it out. It's available right there. Links in the description box for all my social media and everything. Also, ridge.com/chaosarmy. Check it out. Thanks for hanging out. I'm Christopher Chaos, and I'll see you next time. See ya.